Good Monday morning. It's February the 16th. We're glad you're joining us for Catch Up Quick here on WVLT Plus. I'm Will Puckett. We are going to jump into a whole host of today's headlines. We're going to take a look at Nashville here immediately. And then, of course, we'll talk about your first alert weather. And those of you who were still waiting to thaw out from that winter weather, well, let me tell you, the next 5-6 days are exactly what the doctor ordered. That's the good news. Not a whole lot of bad news, at least in the 8-day. When we get a little bit deeper into the forecast, we'll have First Alert meteorologist Belle Oliver join us to break down just a little bit of a bummer in that forecast. But for now, we are looking at a very nice 7-day stretch. All right, let's get our focus on Nashville as I bring in our Erin Rogers. She's going to step up here and look a little bit more like an adult with us today. Erin,
I think I'm taller than you.
I think you actually
on your birthday.
are taller than me.
There we go.
Erin, good morning.
Good morning.
So Erin and I talked a couple of weeks ago when we were chatting about stuff that she can do for WVLT News This Morning on Mondays, and we talked about pretty much trying to do a weekly, as consistently as we can do, Nashville update looking at the state legislature. So you're working to meet up with Republicans and Democrats from East Tennessee every weekend, and then Monday mornings you're going to update us on the state legislature.
I think a lot of the time, too, we see those big items that they talk about maybe in Nashville or at the national level even, but a lot of things that are happening could affect East Tennesseans that they don't necessarily see. So talking to East Tennessee legislators really to get the scoop almost on everything that's going on that could affect you here.
So this week specifically, there were a couple of things that worked their way through the state legislature that were East Tennessee coded. Most notably, if you're looking at the House and subcommittees, State Representative Sam McKenzie from East Knoxville, a Democrat, penned a law that, had it passed, would have basically what he said opened up transparency when it comes to the Education Freedom Scholarships or school voucher program, which some people will call it. That didn't make it out of committee.
No, I mean, it died in subcommittee is what he told me, but kind of the idea of it was to really collect data, basically, on if they were already attending private school, what their family income was like, if they were coming from out of state, a lot of those different ideas. But he said, I mean, it wasn't collecting a lot. He said it really is, quote, a simple bill was something he said. So when it kind of failed, he was a little bit surprised. He said there are some other bills that are kind of going about the same thing, but he said his was the simplest, and he said the least intrusive. So some of the other bills that are going to be coming forward kind of looking for the same information, those data-driven sets on the questions that people were asking. He said, I was surprised. I heard, bipartisan support, kind of behind the door from people that they wanted to get that information as well. So he said he was a little bit surprised, but I mean, moving forward, we actually have info from him too about what he said right after finding out that it had died in subcommittee too, so we can take a listen to what he had to say as well if we want.
Yeah, here's Representative McKenzie.
Unfortunately, this bill didn't pass because it made sense. It was going to tell the Tennessee people what the average person getting the voucher would do. And its only answer is the parents are happy. Of course the parents are happy. You gave them an $8,000 bonus for nothing. And that's what this voucher scam is doing.
We talk often that McKenzie has not minced words when it comes to this, and that was an example of that. But also some people, Erin, might question, are like, all right, so McKenzie penned a bill, other people have bills, but this is something that you see in state houses often, that they might be a similar bill. Some are going to pare it down, some are going to pare it up, just to see what they can get past or across the finish line. Most likely that McKenzie's didn't make it across, and so any of the more hardcore bills that he said exist in this space won't pass either.
I think that's what he was surprised about, was that the one that he called the least intrusive was the first one that kind of was killed in committee. So
now, you also talked to Senator Richard Briggs of Knoxville, and he is one of the most moderate Republicans in the state house right now. And he told you that he's keeping an eye on a whole host of things. You all talked about the Freedom Scholarship programs. His concern is where the money is going to come from that. It has been since even before it was talked about.
A big point, too, that he wanted to make, too, I mean, when it came to the Education Freedom Scholarship or the school voucher program, he said, there's a lot of things we could talk about, but a big thing he wanted to push was we have so many regulations in public schools. If we're going to be giving state money to private schools, those same regulations or similar ones he wants them in place.
But if you talk to folks like Jason Zachary, a Republican from Knoxville too, in the House, fully supportive of this, and says basically when it comes down to it, the state of Tennessee wants to give parents the choice to be able to send their children wherever they seem fit. And if they don't want to send them to public schools, the money should follow them to the private school they want to send them to. So that's really the side of that debate.
There's but also, a host of different opinions.
Yeah, a host of different opinions. When it comes down to further conversation with Senator Briggs, though, he said he's really watching a lot of of the immigration bills and a couple of others that are working their way around.
Yeah, he said, especially, I mean, the House is going to be seeing a lot of those immigration bills, but he sits on the Transportation Committee, and he said, you know, we actually are going to be seeing a lot of those immigration bills. He said a lot surrounding traffic stops, things like that. Even I spoke with Mackenzie about some education bills that related to immigration. Those were kind of the big ticket items that he said they were going to be seeing a lot of those bills. But he did want to point out, he said, you know, his opinion on it was kind of all over the place and in certain areas, but he did want to say, you know, there's a lot of conversation surrounding immigration, but he said, I think we need to be very careful with our wording because of so many corporations and companies that are here in Tennessee that are foreign companies. I mean, he noted Nissan as just one of them. So with foreign employees possibly. So he said a lot of, he actually said, you know, a quote where it was like, you know, 40 to 50% of people who are under illegal status are people who overstayed visas. So he said a lot of that could be from these organizations. So he wanted to be very, very careful because they bring in billions of dollars. He said billions and billions and billions of dollars into Tennessee. So he said, you know, we need to be very careful about that aspect.
Pointed to companies like Denso down in Maryville, Volkswagen in Chattanooga, and just a handful of others that operate in the state. Important to note that it might not sound like a whole heck of a lot has been going on in Nashville as this state legislature got underway about the 4th of January.
Yeah.
You'll remember that
the
winter storm, some people in the city of Nashville went 2 weeks without electricity. The state legislature had power, but hard to get into ice or in areas.
And that's kind of a conversation, too, that I've been having with representatives and senators as I've been speaking with them. And they've said, you know, it sounds like there's not a lot going on. There are a lot of things happening behind the table. And even Senator Briggs mentioned, he goes, you know, there's a lot of things that are happening, but they're not necessarily interesting stuff. So he was like, I'm not going to bore you with the details. But he did say, you know, once they kind of get that ball rolling, and it did slow down because of the winter storm, but he said it's going to be picking up very quickly, very soon. So that's something we are going to be keeping an eye on for you as well.
Rolling along. All right, Erin's going to get out of here. She's going to work on her story for you tomorrow. You can see her again tomorrow on WVLT News this morning, also on all of her social media pages. Erin, thank you, ma'am. And then one thing that a lot of parents across East Tennessee had been keeping a very close eye on is what was happening between East Tennessee Children's Hospital and Cigna Insurance. Well, just recently, East Tennessee Children's Hospital saying that they have reached an agreement with Cigna to continue to operate under the plan that they have operated on for a long time. You were looking at thousands who risked losing their in-network healthcare coverage at East Tennessee Children's Hospital on the 1st of March. All of that came down just after the beginning of the new year. East Tennessee Children's and Cigna were working furiously over the past couple of weeks to months to work on this deal. But East Tennessee Children's Hospital says the longstanding agreement remains in effect without any interruption. And then Cigna saying they're pleased that East Tennessee Children's will remain in network for all who rely on Cigna and East Tennessee Children's Hospital. Cigna to pay for the services and East Tennessee Children's Hospital to provide those services for those who need to go for emergency or anything else that East Tennessee Children's provides on a daily basis. Important to note that East Tennessee Children's Hospital is a not-for-profit hospital, and so every last dollar that they get is critical to their operations. All right, a story that we're continuing to follow for you today right here on WVLT Plus is the situation at Skyland Ranch in Sevierville. Friday morning, I broke the story that a fire had destroyed 2 barns on their property. Those barns housed merchandise for Skyland Ranch and a cafe of sorts for folks who come there to entertain themselves in Sevier County. The investigation is still ongoing today as to what sparked that fire, but it did destroy 2 barns on the property at Skyland Ranch. I can tell you that we got about on scene Friday morning, about 4:15 roughly, actually more 4:45. But it wasn't about until 4:15, 4:30 that we made it onto the parkway. And it was Smoky Mountain Knife Works was the spot where I first saw that plume of smoke from that fire reaching into the dark sky. It was that gray on the black backdrop, and so it was just very, very clear that you could see what was happening there at Skyland Ranch from quite a good distance away. And then we got closer, you could see fire up on the hillside. Again, an investigation ongoing as to what sparked that fire, but they're looking into it right now. Skyland Ranch had said that they were very, very dead set on being able to operate except for that little area at the top of the hill. So they have their mountain coaster going, they have their safari hay rides going, all of their animals are safe. I was talking with Lisa Williford, their co-owner, one of their owners, and she said everyone has been reaching out to me this morning asking me if Dozer is okay. Their mini Highland cow. She said Dozer's okay. We want everyone to know that he is doing fine. And so that was a really important piece that she wanted to get the news out to everyone, is that Dozer was fine. But Williford and the rest of the ownership group was actually out of town at the time, and they had woken up, they booked a flight immediately back to East Tennessee, and then were on scene just about 9 o'clock that morning to see what things look like. But the city of Sevierville sharing these videos and photos, and then Lisa Williford showing us the aftermath of that damage of their 2 barns. But a very, very surreal scene when we got on scene. They used drones to assess the situation. There were concerns early on Friday morning of a possible wildland fire breaking out, and so they really had to get on scene, assess everything. Some tense moments as the Department of Ag was on scene to make sure that everything was okay, but all now is well that ends well. Here's actually what Lisa Williford told me on Friday morning when she was at the scene.
We're very grateful. Again, it's not what we want to see up there. We need to make some assessments. We need to there's a lot that we need to go over. So not sure where those next steps are. But if anybody knows the Willifords, that's I mean, we jump in and do what we need to do and take care of our people.
Lisa saying at the time that they had some other attractions in Sevier County that if they were going to have an extended closure, had to reassess how many people they need to work on any given day, they would do so and reorganize those employees to their other attractions to make sure that they were good to go. But it's important to note that these barns did not house animals, but there were animals near where the flames were happening. And it was the quick thinking work of 2 Sevierville police officers who arrived on scene and immediately broke through a handful of gates in order to access the animals at the top of the hill. Here is what Peyton King, one of those Sevierville officers, told me about getting on scene, knowing that there were animals involved, and putting safety and everything aside in order to save any possible life there was to save.
I would want someone to do the same for mine. Having farm animals myself, I never want someone just to leave them there because they can fend for themselves. They were stuck in an enclosure and they needed us to get out. They were scared just like the rest of us. So.
That was Officer Peyton King of the Sevierville Police Department. Again, she rushed in, making sure that all of the animals a part of Skyland Ranch near that fire were safe. But again, critical to note that the 2 barns that burned down didn't house animals at any point. One was a merchandise barn and the other was one for food, a cafe of sorts. And a barn's really not, I mean, it looks like a barn. That's the style of a ranch, but there's just a cafe and then a store for merchandise, and that's what burned down. Skyland Ranch, again, open today. Their mountain coaster's open. Their safari hayride is good to go. But as for what rebuilding is going to look like, what they're going to have to do is to be reassessed later on. But they're ready to roll. They're operating this morning. We're planning to have a report from Sevier County on Skyland Ranch and the rest of the Sevier County sort of business environment and how they all step up to help each other, and the relationship with the Sevierville police officer later on this afternoon, starting on WVLT News at 3:30. But again, Skyland Ranch open, mountain coasters rolling, safari hay rides good to go. They are not doing their ride up to the top of the mountain, or top of the hill rather. They're working on assessing that, and when it's ready to rebuild and so on and so forth, they'll do so. Also, the investigation as to what sparked that fire is ongoing. Of course, today is President's Day, so that investigation will have to probably be delayed a day because, well, government is not open. If you are unfamiliar with this story at Skyland Ranch, you can read all about it inside your WVLT News app. Again, we'll continue to have our reports on Skyland Ranch and their recovery efforts and the Sevier County business community throughout the afternoon on WVLT News, starting at 3:30 and going all the way until 11, including right here on WVLT Plus with Harry Sullivan at 6:30. All right,
And now, your first alert forecast with meteorologist Belle Oliver.
I told you all some of you are going to love this forecast, and so let's bring Belle in. Belle, you had some good news quite a bit last week, and well, re-racket good news this week.
Yeah, I mean, this is a complete 180 from where we were yesterday. Yesterday was, very rainy, soggy, a little bit on the cooler side, and now we're looking at full sunshine for today, and also some nice warming temperatures. I know we had a lot of fog this morning, Sydney was talking about, so definitely have seen that start to dissipate. But the big thing for today is just sunshine and enjoying some nice spring-like weather.
You love that. Did you see the picture of the Pigeon Forge camera this morning?
Yes,
Holy
that was
cow.
crazy.
Yeah, bonkers.
That was crazy.
If you haven't seen it, I shared it on my social media page on Will Puckett, WVLT. You can only see the mountains, and the rest of the city of Pigeon Forge is covered in a layer of fog.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
But you can't complain about the fog because it set us up for one heck of a Monday. I mean,
Yeah.
temperatures already in Knoxville sitting at 50.
Right, we're into
we talking
the
about here,
upper
Belle?
40s, the low 50s. I just love a little taste of spring. I mentioned on my Facebook this was fake spring because
Oh yeah, winter's gonna come back.
It'll
with a
come back.
vengeance
It'll
real
come back.
quick.
But we got to enjoy it while we can, right?
Always.
I think today, perfect day. Get outside. I mean, we're talking full sunshine heading into this afternoon. I think a lot of us going to be touching the low 60s. I can't stress it enough. Get outside. Enjoy it. We will add a few more clouds in tomorrow and then Wednesday and Thursday, but at least we keep the warmer weather. Notice we've got temperatures staying well above average where we should be this time of year. We should only be into the 50s for this time in February, but we're going to be pushing near 70 going into Thursday. So definitely feeling more like, I guess, March and April, which I'm a fan of. I like this. It will come, I mentioned, with a few more of those clouds and then maybe a few chances for rain, especially going into the second half of this week. Here's where we are tomorrow, though. 66 Knoxville, near 70 in Sevierville, 66 down towards Madisonville, Athens, minibus middle to upper 60s. So another warm day coming for us tomorrow, and then that continues Wednesday and Thursday too.
Yeah, look at that. And then we're talking about 8 days. 70 at one point, I think I saw in there.
Thursday.
Thursday, but we are on Saturday looking at, safe to say, pretty much a washout.
Right now, the timing is a little bit iffy. That's kind of what we're working on because it's only Monday. But I would say plan for a few showers, likely Friday into Saturday. I don't know why it seems like the weather is always on the weekend. I feel like
You said that in the morning meeting today.
Yes,
Yeah, just
every
like, what
time
is
it comes, it's on the weekend. I don't understand. But it's okay. We'll get through it.
And it's going to be a cold front, and it's going to get us back into the 50s, but it's important to note when we say it's going to get us back into the 50s, that's where we should be this time of year. And so it's really not that out of the ordinary, but when we get into the 50s, it's just
it's a shock to the system after we spent some time in the 60s.
For sure. The aforementioned look at the Pigeon Forge camera from this morning. Thank you, David Sykes, for getting this. This is roughly, I'd say, about between 6:30 and 7:30. I think we were in the 7 by the time I had taken this screen grab. And so that's just a look at that fog settling down on Pigeon Forge. Absolutely gorgeous. You can see sort of that big orange sunrise that we had in East Tennessee getting us ready to go. And so that's just, again, a look at about maybe between 7 and 7:30 is more like it on this Monday morning on this President's Day. David, thank you for getting that ready to go. All right, Belle, real quick, again, highlights on the forecast that you're looking at.
Yeah, I mean, sunshine today, low 60s for afternoon highs, building up temperatures into the mid 60s tomorrow. Few more clouds possible, a little bit more clouds Wednesday, Thursday, and then we'll see the warmest of the weather Thursday with low 70s, and then watching that chance for rain going into a Friday and Saturday.
I know some of you are going to be tossing on your air conditioner. The rest of you are going to be laying outside with some sunscreen on. Belle, we'll let you get out of here and start working on WVLT News at noon. For the rest of you, you can get updates all day long on breaking news, on just general news right here inside the WVLT News app, and a look at your first alert forecast as the day progresses. We'll continue with your headlines with Harry Sullivan and Belle on WVLT News at noon, and then beginning at 3:30 on WVLT. Oh, also, another revisit right here at WVLT Plus at about 2 o'clock, and then, of course, the all-new streaming show, 6:30, right here on WVLT Plus. Harry is bringing you all of the biggest updates this weekend, or actually Friday. He was joined by our Jared Austin after he had spent the majority of the afternoon in court at the Joey Aguilar hearing. What we do right here on WVLT Plus allows us a better opportunity to dive deeper into the stories. We're not constricted to time restraints, commercials, the whole nine. We're able to dive deep into the things that you need to know and that affect you and your family, like the Joey Aguilar court case, like other things throughout the day. And so when you join us on WVLT Plus, we'll give you a better breakdown of what that news looks like without constraints, ties off, quarter zip, halfway zipped, and get you all ready. Again, 6:30 with Harry, our new streaming newscast. Again, 6:30 Monday through Friday, right here on WVLT Plus. Your newscasts continue at 12:30 on WVLT. All of your latest headlines here inside the WVLT News App and on all of our streaming sites on WVLT Plus and social media pages. We'll see you back here tomorrow.